I've been swatting up on all things to do with books, and this is just some of them. But these are some of the books I've been reading, written by people who claim to be best-selling authors and who are writing books about how to become a best-selling author. So this one's a really funny size, and it's not got a very high page count, and it's actually just junk. It's really bad. This one, The Influential Author, is really good. You know, it's got proper substance. Each chapter actually teaches a topic. And some people will have done these books as a marketing tool to promote some software or something. There was one on audiobooks, which I've just put down somewhere else. I'm actually reading that one at the moment, which was really well structured and well written. But it's funny, like I just thought I'd show you these. Like this is what I do for fun, is read these sorts of things. Here's a little hardback one, Book Marketing Reinvented. So, you know, it's a bit naughty. They've put like a badge on the front cover that says #1 bestseller, which is not. When I look these books up on KD Spy, and they're all just absolute rubbish. You know, they're not doing any sales at all, which is quite funny considering they're writing things like how to sell books on Amazon by the truckload, not selling very many at all. So what I've basically been studying, not so much the content of the book, but like I can get my hands on all these books and I can see the sales of what's selling. And there's really two things. One is having it catch the customer's attention and be on the topic that they're looking on. And then once they've bought the book, you know, the customer experience reading it, the standard is so incredibly low. It's what I've concluded, especially in the self-publishing game. So the books I've produced and that we've had ghostwritten for us are much better than pretty much all of those, without sounding arrogant. And these are people who claim that they're teaching how to be bestsellers because they are bestsellers. You know, they're not well structured. There's no kind of clear action plan with each lesson. Yeah, they're just pretty fluffy, light, just junk really. So rather underwhelming as a customer experience. I wouldn't be leaving any of them good reviews. But when you go through an airport, say, and you see those shelves, there's, you know, the 1 Minute Manager, or there's the books on 12 Rules of Life by Jordan Peterson. Who else has got kind of those classic airport bestsellers? You know, there's like 12 rules or one key point in the book. And that's all you need to do. You just need to kind of get one key point and make it well in the whole entire book, you know, introduce it well, really break it down, get the 5 or 10 points you want to make, wrap it all up, job done. You don't need to write a big book, but you do need to structure it well. And you need to make sure that the person you're writing for gets it in the right format. So there's a big difference between the business writing and the kind of the self-help thing. There's the hobbyists have a different sort of writing style again. So the first thing when you're briefing your writers is to get the tone and the tense and what person and exactly who the audience is. So we've got an example to show you in a moment. So this is one I've written, which is kind of for business people on creativity and imagination. So basically the point of the book, I'm just getting commissioned right now, is that, you know, you won't win in business if all you do is copy other people. A lot of business people have got to a certain level by just being very productive and effective in their workplaces and hitting their targets and doing what they're told. But to get to the next level up, and especially to be an entrepreneur, you need to be original. By definition, an entrepreneur is doing something new that hasn't been done before. And so it's a book showing people some ways to be more creative, some structured exercises to come up with original and different thoughts. And it kind of opens up with why it's important to be creative and original. Like, you can't just be another commodity in the market. And then it goes through a bunch of different ideas and then some practical stuff. So any books where there's a workbook do really well. There's a couple I'll show you that have done really well. So these two books are examples of ones that are making mega sales, and they still are quite short. So this book here is 200 pages. It's called The One-Page Marketing Plan, but it just does one thing. It teaches business owners or marketing managers how to get more new customers, make more money, and stand out from the crowd. And it's just, look, got lots of diagrams and lots of little work page type things. It would need a little bit more input than our average ghost-written book, but it's not that hard. So if you were doing something like the one-day personal branding exercise, you could look at the structure of this book and write a brief for your writer that follows exactly this. So you'd have a chapter on your email and your email presentation settings, messages, logo, signature box, all that kind of stuff. And then you might have a chapter on LinkedIn, you might have a chapter on YouTube, you might have a chapter on Facebook, you might have a chapter on building your own database, you might have a chapter on how to communicate with the people that you want to build relationships with, and then you might have a couple of other chapters. But this format here is a winner. So you want to study what's doing really well on Amazon. It's actually worth ordering some of the hard copy books in the categories that you want to get into, because that's what's working. So there's sort of this separation, you know, some of these books make big promises and you know, when you open them, they're just junk. And then there's not that much of a difference in cost or effort to create something that's actually properly structured and properly written. So out of interest, and the people on this call, how many of you are thinking your first book would be business? How many more of a kind of a self-help type thing, and how many just a hobby or something? So maybe in the chat box, I'll just get a quick scan. Business or hobby, self-help. Hobbies are good. Hobbies are really nice because you don't need to convince anyone of anything. They're definitely, you know, just research how to do calligraphy, give them some lined pages to practice on, you know, you need to license in some of the image stuff maybe, but hobbies would be the easiest. You know, it's not a critical audience. It can be quite lightweight substance, just obviously covering the subject. Health's another good one. Dog training, brilliant. Lots of self-help. With the cookery books, just remember you'll probably miss out on that audible income stream. Spiritual's a great one, so we could kind of bunch that in with self-help, but spiritual's a really good one. Lots of hobbies. Brilliant. Art, Marion, good stuff. Travel, Patty, good. So if you look at the market where the dollars are spent, the biggest volume's on fiction, and within that romance, which is really hard for us to produce, and certainly hard to consistently produce quality and know what you're getting, and that's a tough one. Self-help's nice because it's kind of got that instant gratification for the person buying it. You know, they feel like they're having, I don't know, I was going to use panic attacks as an example, but that's maybe a bit medical, but maybe it's just say it's general stress. You could have like there's a book on self-care that's called something like the 52-week project or the 12-month self-care project. And basically every month this woman goes and tries a different strategy for reducing stress and increasing her self-care. So 1 month she doesn't drink any alcohol, then she goes vegan, and she doesn't stick with each new thing for the whole year, just does 1 month and then moves on and tries something else. And she does yoga, and then she does walking and tries different apps to track stuff. So anyway, that's a really nice structure of a book. It's just her personal story. She's obviously put a lot of work into that one, but you could research 52 ideas for self-care and do a 52 chapter book on self-care ideas for people who are pretty frazzled at the end of 2020, and launch that in the new year. There'll be a lot of people with New Year's resolutions, sort out a new income stream, or get on top of their health, or get out of their stressful day job, or sort out some stuff in their family or relationship. So, you know, it's a time of year where people are looking for changes, and especially, you know, as we go through these kind of cycles of life, the end of the year is a nice natural cycle. So I'd say the next couple of months would be good for self-help, and always people are looking for education to increase future income streams. Well, there's a cat. Yeah, so the process is pretty much the same, but the document that you give to your writer has to really clearly define who you're writing for. So I quite like a good science-based book. You know, you can find the studies, they're public, they're published in credible journals. A good writer with a background in that subject could write a book about the science of how vaccines work or something. I mean, it's a controversial subject, but those individual studies, somebody could write that up and explain how vaccines work, so people can understand the science, for example. Well, we have got here. So business is great. Just reading all these other topics people are doing. History of World War I, Brian, that's a good one. Yeah, so history is good because you can't really go wrong with it. You know, somebody can write up something about the downfall in Berlin, and there's plenty of resources, and you know, the writer can put in some opinion, but really it's, you know, they're going to say where their sources and where this information came from. Medical stuff I'd keep clear of. Hobbies are great. Self-help's fine as long as you're not kind of getting too much into that mental health or medical side of it. But certainly there's a ton of money spent on self-help books. My favorite, happiest, most comfortable patch is business, and sort of generally as a rule, if you write on a subject that you're interested in yourself, and you would be the sort of person that buys and reads these books, it's going to be fun and easy for you researching the competition because you can just buy a bunch of books on things you're interested in, but you'll also know what the market's looking for and willing to pay for and would value. So a book like this, the one-page marketing plan, I could whip up a book, the one-page Amazon game plan, 12-month Amazon game plan or something. And, you know, there's sort of a formula here that's been proven and works, and you can just slot your topic into the proven model. So I think when you're briefing your writer, it's good to show them some links to some books that I'm often happy, you know, often I'll pay for my writers to buy copies of the books if they don't have Kindle Unlimited, so that they can see and flick through exactly the style of what we want. It's easier to say a style like this rather than try and explain friendly and warm yet professional and distant, and you know, it's quite hard to put into words that style that you want. Illustrations and diagrams and worksheets can be really, really good. They can help improve the experience for the reader, and you'll need to get a separate illustrator to do those, but often they're not difficult at all, and they just get inserted into the manuscript. Everything gets PDF'd and, you know, locked in, so there's no issues with publishing it on Kindle. But certainly for any self-help or business books, there's generally some practical work to be done, and if you can add a little summing up thing at the end of each chapter. So this is a book I think I showed you last week, the Luck Factor one. So at the end of each chapter, it's really good. They do a little wrap up of what this chapter covered. They do a good introduction and a good wrap up of each chapter. So here we go. We've got exercise 8, and it's just in a little table, if you can see that. But that little exercise there about your luck profile, and then you do this exercise and score yourself and get a little readout. Yeah, but you really need to sort of study the format of books, and in the niche that you're in, get some of the bestsellers. Here's one that's got a summary of all the exercises. So it takes a little bit more thought and organizing. You know, it says it links to a page number, you know, all of that stuff's got to actually work. You might want to have the appendices in separately. So this was some card game thing that they did. Yeah, so you can add exercises and tables in the Kindle format. So these are all these images that go with the exercises that are in the book. And then he's got all the notes of all the academic references. So if you're writing something vaguely medical or based on other people's research studies, you really need all those citations properly done. The format you want to use for all of those is called APA, which is the American Psychology Association. That's your format guide for academic references. Or even other books, they don't even need to be academic, but if you're saying to be creative, you need to do such and such, according to Edward de Bono's 6 Thinking Hats, you'd actually have to reference that book properly rather than just drop his name in and, you know, potentially lead to confusion that his idea is your idea. I wouldn't do biographies on living people at the moment. There's a few just tricky things, sort of that libel defamation stuff makes me a bit nervous. Unless you get their permission and basically ghostwrite for them. but they'll want some of the payout of that, no doubt, and it's kind of their project as much as yours. That would be harder. It's not quite what we're recommending you do here. Okay, so we have got a template that we recommend you use for doing all of your book outlines to give to your writers. So you need to have done your research, what's selling. You need to have done the creative thinking around how will your book have a point of difference. So everybody else has got a generic marketing plan, but yours could be a one-page or one-day personal branding launch or something, or you could have a 12-month Amazon product game plan, or this one here, starting a business quick start guide. This is just full of diagrams and exercises and very very structured with charts and lots and lots of formatting in this one. That would be quite hard to do, but you do want to read all those top selling ones that are making the most sales and sort of cherry pick the best of your idea with what's original about your idea, with a proven format and a really clear style guide for your writer. So if you can bring those things together, a novel concept, a format that works, and in the voice that's appropriate for your customer, that's what your ghostwriter needs to do their job well. And then you can pretty much leave them. So you don't need to be very involved in all of the writing if you get those things right at the start. But you can't really miss any of them. You can't do it in the wrong format. You can't do it the same as other people's books. And you can't get the tone or the voice wrong for who you're writing for. So most of these books that I got on publishing, ironically, were pretty awfully written. They were terrible, some of them. And yeah, they didn't do themselves any favors. So anyway, there was some good little nuggets in the middle of it, but just a load of fluff. So people prefer a short book. And one thing actually, so I've been playing around with a lot of audio books in the last week. And one thing I just want to update you all on is the recommended word count. So I would strongly recommend 30,000 words as the word count. I was previously saying 25,000, but do 30,000. And the reason for that is when you get it narrated, you need it to be over 3 hours, and then your commission is much higher. Your commission from Amazon, the payout you get is much, much lower if your book's under 3 hours, and 25,000 words isn't always quite 3 hours, but 30,000 words should be. So yeah, I would do 30,000, and I would only do books now that could be turned into a Kindle audiobook. So on Audible, there's only something like 400,000 titles, and there's billions of dollars being spent. It's growing at something like 25% year on year at the moment. It's absolutely cranking. So if you do a cookery book, or what other formats don't really work for audiobook? Cookery ones are the obvious ones I always think of as an example, but say, you don't ever do the Audible thing with your ebook, you are missing out on at least half the potential income, maybe a lot more. Yeah, so art or photography, if it needs lots of diagrams, that won't work. Yeah, yoga with lots of diagrams would be tricky. You could still do a book on yoga, you could talk about the spiritual side of Kundalini or whatever. Some children's pictures with illustrations would be, but actually I spend, of my Audible library, at least half of them would be children's books from all the road trips we've done. Yeah, so any storybooks are good. Gardening could be a bit tricky as well if you need pictures of what the plants look like. Numerology, yeah, it's quite hard to listen to numbers. I can't listen to numbers, I have to see them written down, and even then it's quite a dry thing. Yeah, so you want to model the tone on the bestsellers in your niche, unless the point of difference is you're bringing a friendly self-help approach to a business problem. So say it's negotiating deals, and there's lots of books out there that are very business-like. There's a book by Roger Fisher from Harvard University called Getting to Yes, which is a big classic book about negotiating strategy that's on every MBA reading list. And then there's people like Chris Voss, who've written a book more recently on Never Split the Difference. And that's a slightly different way of dealing with negotiations, but you could almost do a much softer, touchy-feely thing about body language and building rapport and overcoming nerves and feeling more confident as you negotiate something. And then it's a little bit more of a self-help type book. So the brief to the writer is, this is giving people confidence who aren't used to doing negotiations or who feel intimidated by closing a deal or doing business, you know, something that's a bit softer but still teaching the same thing. Then the point of difference might be that it's a much softer, more encouraging voice, rather than this is best practice and this should be your strategy and this is the game theory behind how the deal should be cut, and gets all quite technical quite quickly otherwise. So I quite like those more, I prefer the softer subjects and the feel-good factor, and one message per book with, you know, half a dozen good examples and case studies, reiterate the point a few times, start the whole thing by introducing why it's such an important subject to get good at, finish up with what they should go and do next, and then in between just, you know, case after case, explaining again and again how this thing works, why it's important, what they need to do. So a few questions there about the audiobooks. At the moment, you can't do Audible unless you're from the UK, US or Canada. There might have been one other country, but I think Australia's not in there. New Zealand's definitely not in there. But I'm sure that'll change over time. But you can't do the audiobooks till you've finished your ebooks anyway. It has to get uploaded from KDP. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. You might need to get creative with friends and family or something there. Yeah, Amy's question about sparse format books, so book of quotes or prayers. Some of those would translate. I just bought a book of 100 poems that I was listening to, and that poetry is beautifully narrated. You need to have a really good voice for a lot of those things. It could be a book on hypnotherapy or meditation, in which case you need to make sure your narrator's really good. And you actually need to make sure if it's anything on those sorts of subjects, you make sure nobody listens to it while they're driving. I would get the accent of the narrator. It doesn't actually matter as long as it matches the profile of the author of your book. So if I was getting my own book done, I wouldn't want an American accent or an Australian accent. I'd want a British one. But it wouldn't matter for some of the self-help books at all that aren't under my name. Sometimes the difference of a male or a female is more important than which country they're from. Yeah, a series is really good. So if you're doing a series, see if you can lock in the writer for all of them and make sure your designer gives you some good raw design files that you can update, or that hopefully they can stay on and do the whole job, but make sure you don't have to redesign the whole thing from scratch if you're planning a like a box set or a series of books. All right, what I'm going to do is open up my, just whirring away, I'll share my screen in a moment. The outline that Virginia and I have been working on this week. So I've got a list of about 10 outlines to write, and sometimes I get on a roll and do a whole batch of them. And other times, you know, it's gets to the bottom of the to-do list and stays there for way too long. But if you get onto a roll doing this, I think it's probably separate from your market research. I'd say it's another hour or two to do a really good brief for your writer. So I'll just put my screen share on. Can you see that okay? Cool. Okay, so this is the template that you will find in the resources section that Virginia and I have built up based on mistakes made where we've had things lost in communication, and we've seen templates that some of the agencies give us, and we've also just done quite a few of these now. So this is what we recommend you use when you brief your writer. So all the title, the working title and the subtitle, they are always going to be confirmed again at the end, but it's good just to get the book writing underway, because you can tinker around with the exact wording of the title and the subtitle as the book's being written. So here's a note to the writer, you know, this has to be good quality. You must be a native English speaker. We need all, you know, quality writing. Don't be repetitive, make it readable. If it's a non-fiction, it has to be highly informative and true. And then use the APA citation style to avoid plagiarism. I always also like to let them know that we'll run their published or their written work through Copyscape, which is some software that will detect if they have just copied and pasted somebody else's work, which probably does happen in some cases. So you really want to make sure that your work's original, because if you don't pick it up now, Amazon will, and then you'll be in big trouble later. So nice little table just giving them size, font, word count, the draft titles. And then this tone and style is important. So the book that I'm modeling, sorry, I should keep my books in the same room as my laptop now.
Hi guys, I'm just stepping in while Sophie is getting her thing. Just letting you know, this is a very, very detailed outline. Don't feel like you have to fill absolutely every single thing. So it's just a guide, right? It's just for your guide. Leave whatever you don't need and just fill out whatever you think is necessary for your writer. Sorry, I just want to say that.
Yeah, we've done other ones that are like literally 10 bullet points and we've just fired them off. I did one on Ayurvedic recipes, and it was just like, do some soups, do some salads, do some sauces, do some main courses, do some desserts, explain like an intro chapter on how Ayurvedic food works and a wrapping up chapter on the health benefits. You know, it was really simple. So this is the book that has sold millions and millions and millions of copies, called Influence. So persuading and influencing isn't a core business skill. It's not like in the MBA curriculum. It's not something that you get taught, but the people in business who can influence others become, you know, good managers, they become great salespeople. If you can persuade and influence, and this book's called The Psychology of Persuasion, is the tagline. So have many of you read this book? It's an absolute classic. Most of the world seems to have read this book. I can't see anywhere where it says how many copies have been sold, but literally millions of copies. It's still a huge bestseller. It's written by an academic in a university, which obviously I am not, but it's based on rigorous research on what motivates people to change their behavior. So if you're a top achiever in the workplace and you want to get ahead, becoming a better influencer or better persuader will help you deal with all the people that you have to deal with in business. So it's not a technical how-to guide, it's lots of case studies. Like one of this, so there's kind of 7 big case studies, I guess, that exemplify his points. So one way is that feeling of needing to close a reciprocal deal. So they talk about, you know, when the gypsies will cross your palm with silver, will hand you some heather. So in London, when you get off the tube, you know, there's a lot of gypsies who trying to raise money, and they'll give you some heather as a gift, and they'll say it's a gift. And then you've got the slightly awkward feeling that you should give them something back because they've given you a gift. And so then they ask you to cross their palm with silver, which is, please give me some money. And it's really, really effective because they've given you something first, and it leaves all humans with this slightly awkward feeling that you need to reciprocate and even things up again. Otherwise, you're kind of out of balance. So there's 7 big case studies on topics like that. One is about reciprocal behavior, one is about commitment and consistency, one's about social proof, like you're more likely to act if other people are seen acting in the same way, being likable, having authority, and then scarcity. So, you know, if something's running out and there's fear of missing out, then there's a stampede to get in before it's gone. And so it really is, you know, the deeply hardwired things in our mind that make us behave, and a lot of how we behave is to do with survival or reproduction, basically. So it's a great book. It's just about how human brains work, and this book will be really, really helpful for people in business developing those skills to have more persuasion and influence, which obviously is going to help you get ahead. So because I really enjoyed that book, and the case studies weren't his own original research done in a university, they were just kind of case studies that were anecdotal, that exemplified the points he wanted to make. You know, you need to have authority. So he might have done some case studies in there about people writing a book to become an expert on the subject, or being endorsed by another person in the industry, or getting introduced in a certain way gives that authority. So I try to think what else would be a useful skill to give serious and ambitious business people that isn't taught as a classic business subject, but will also help you really succeed. So this isn't a book I've chosen based on research on KD SPI. This is a thing that I think will be genuinely helpful to business owners. But I haven't seen any other books teach really well. So the idea is that if you're more creative and you can tap into your imagination and have original thoughts, then that's really not just nice to have, it's essential if you want to be an entrepreneur. You can't just always follow other people. You've actually got to bring two different disciplines together, or bring two different ideas, or solve a problem in a creative way, or be resourceful when you meet some obstacles. So lots and lots of different points to make. A little bit hard to market because it's not going to be one where people are searching for it, but I'd love to put the effort into promoting this book and doing such a good job. It's as good as this book. So I want the book to be as well written as this book, on a subject that's for the same audience as this book's for, and has the same style. You know, it sort of makes 5 or 6 or 7 points really clearly, with lots of stories, because people like stories. They can follow a story and remember it, more than a data set from some clinical trial. You know, people love the story time part to understand the principle that's being made. And I really want to do a quality job of it. It's something I feel strongly about. It's something that, being a little bit off the beaten tracks, really helped me in my business by not copying what everyone else is doing. And it's really hard to teach. It's not like you can give someone a formula to have an original thought, but there are ways to help people get into the right state, some little exercises people can do to be more original, and, you know, to analyze what's been done, and therefore do like a gap analysis of what's not been done. You can almost structure the creation process. There's a whole industry out there called ideation, where people try and come up with original ideas through kind of workshops and focus groups.
I think this might be yours.
Yeah, and then there's people not on mute again.
Did I?
Thanks. So in the brief to the writer, we've told them what we want. It's for high achievers who want to expand their creative and entrepreneurial mind. So it's really for business leaders. It's not for kind of middle managers who want to be more productive and, you know, hit their sales targets. This is, you know, people coming up with original ideas, staying innovative in their industry, staying at the front of the pack, not being a copycat. So we want this book to be something, you know, that is the best on its subject out there. So I've read all the other books on this subject and seen what else is out there. The style guide I want is just like this book. The topic's quite clear. I'm going to look at more case studies and pepper those into the ghostwriters' research work that they do. We've written here who the target audience is. So it's entrepreneurs, professionals. We haven't put details in here about what not to include or the readers or anything, but we've got here the different chapters. So the myth of the lone genius, you know, everybody's got their muse or their sources of inspiration. And then there needs to be a takeaway at the end of each chapter. So there might be a couple of stories or case studies, but then there's like an action or a summing up of what that point has been. Chapter 3, how too much time sitting on the internet can drain the brain and you know, make you lazy. You just sit there passively reading other people's stuff on Facebook or whatever, and you kind of lose that ability to think critically and think independently. So we'll talk there about, you know, how you can zap your creative powers by just filling your brain with junk. You know, reading the news, sitting on social media does not help you become a more creative or original person. Another one about asking good questions and having curiosity. J.K. Rowling's just written a really good book called Curiosity. So we'll refer to that in there somewhere as well. Then there's another point there about learning, like the more you can learn, the more reading you do, quality reading, the more stuff you pick up and can assimilate and join the dots between different disciplines, or there's a book here on habits and the book there on ultra learning and a book here on memory, like can you combine any of these into something new? So if you want to be creative and have original ideas, you need to draw on existing disciplines and existing knowledge and then combine them in a new way. It's not like much original stuff's truly original. It's just a new combination of existing stuff already out there in the universe. So the more you read, the more you will be able to spot those opportunities, spot the patterns or the trends. Another chapter here about routine that gets you in a good state to be creative. If you're stressed, you're not going to come up with creative ideas. If you're in a 5-minute deadline, you're not going to come up with quality stuff. If you're exhausted, you won't have the energy to think. If you're if you're an introvert and you're forced to spend all day in a live workshop, you're going to just be a wreck by the end of it and not able to think in that state. But if you go for a walk on your own, you might come up with some brilliant stuff. So it's like understanding what gives you that peak performance state and getting into it and giving yourself time in your routine and contemplation time. My lawyer, when he sends his bill with the 6-minute blocks, he puts time down for consideration. And so he's not writing a letter to the other side. He's not drafting an agreement. He charges his time for consideration. So I picture him there, twiddling his thumbs, just musing, maybe stroking his beard. That consideration time is where he comes up with his clever thoughts. And that's important. Like that's what a serious professional needs to build into their day to have proper quality thinking. So there's some challenges and exercises to stimulate them to be more creative. And then a recap, some recommended reading is always good. If you do that, you can also potentially contact the authors of the other book and say, I've written this book, Edward de Bono, and the book with Ultra Habits, and the guy and J.K. Rowling with Curiosity. I mean, you're not going to get very far with people at that level, but if you refer and recommend your readers to another book, you can contact that author and say, I've written this book. It's, a structured way to help people be more creative and original. I think they'll really benefit from your book, and I've recommended that they read a copy. Here's a free copy of my book. If you ever want to do any promotion or anything together, or if you'd like me to write a guest blog post for your readers on the benefits of being more creative, I'd love the opportunity to reach your readers with this message, which I think they'd like. I mean, you're not going to get through to J.K. Rowling, but you might get to some, if you did that 20 times, 1 or 2 people would certainly take you up on a guest blog post or something, write a newsletter for them, recommending your book in a link. That sort of stuff is where you really can get ahead. So you only want to do that stuff with a quality book. So when we shipped this brief off to the agency that's going to do the writing, we will get a 30,000 word one done. It'll be a good few weeks, probably 4 or 6 weeks to get something this good written. It'll be a quality job, and we'll use their top tier of writers. So some stuff like getting the Ayurvedic recipes, we didn't need a world-class writer for that. We needed someone who could sit on Google, do a bit of typing, and wasn't too techie, and they didn't need to be a subject matter expert. This needs to be someone who's written for a business audience. Like, I'd like this to be as well written as any New York Times bestseller on any other business subject. And that's what those agencies are capable of, but you need to brief them well. So I like to give them some links to other books that might be good resources for them, give them a style guide, give them a chapter guide, and off they go. So the chapter by chapter summary, you can go into a lot of detail here or not. But then at the end of the chapters, you want to have a nice conclusion that wraps it all up, gives them some action points, reminds them what value they've got from the book. You might ask them there to leave a review on Amazon if they've enjoyed it. And references at the end. So the form we've got here for you as well is some of the other competitors, or even other relevant sort of resources to read or that you might be recommending, so you can pop all those in this little section at the end. So it looks like quite a big form, but it shouldn't. If you do this well, you'll end up with a much better book at the end. So I just thought I'd share with you a real example of what we're working on. And we've got about 30 books at various stages of production at the moment. We've got biographies, we've got children's things, we've got foreign language things, we've got old classics, we've got all sorts. But this is the sort of one where I put a bit more energy in and have much higher expectations, and would feel, you know, I'm happy to put my name on this one. I won't be putting my name on very many books. Most of them are quite light, quite fast, about a hobby or about one topic, and you know, you sort of churn them out, a bit of a production line, whereas this one's a little bit more, not personal. I'll write the introduction when we get to that, but yeah, this one's a bit more effort in and a lot more quality out. So this is kind of the gold standard of briefing your writer. You can do it shorter and, you know, bash out 10 bullet points, a chapter on each of these, please go, and you'll get something back. But this just will help ensure better quality comes back through to you. So I'll stop my screen share there. What I'll do now is scan through all the Q&A and just check what questions have been coming through. What I'd also like to ask you, and you can type this while I start reading and seeing what's been coming up in the chat box while I had my screen share on. I'd love to know what gaps you've got in your knowledge. I know most of you won't have been through all the training yet, but very happy to jump in and record some extra modules for you over the summer. Today's our last session in this format for a couple of weeks. I think we are back, Virginia knows what date, I think maybe the 7th of January or the 6th of January. And we've got a really cool lady coming in. We're doing a session on low content publishing, which will be a really cool new strategy that's really fast and low cost and a really cool way to get some extra books up on Amazon selling quickly in paperback format. So what else do you need help with that's maybe too light in the training or we haven't covered and you've got questions about? Because anything that you want to know more about, other people might want to, or it might just be in the training and you haven't got to it yet. But I am just generally casting around for ideas on what else you might need extra help on. Children's books, I just think are so hard. Why make it that hard? You need illustrators. The children don't buy the books themselves. They don't have Kindle devices. I'd say, you know, go for it on a book on parenting, but I think, you know, it sounds lovely. It's really appealing to write books for children, but the reality and the dream might be a little bit different there. I would definitely do something simpler than a children's book. Copyright is free and automatic. We'll do a little training module on where you can register your copyright. Some of the ebook businesses I bought, we had to send sort of a formal letter assigning the copyright over to me as the new owner. NDA agreements, I think we've got a template for that somewhere, haven't we, Virginia? I think that's in the resources. You can unmute yourself, Virginia, as well and answer questions too.
Yeah, I just finalized it yesterday and it should have been uploaded yesterday. Brilliant. In the resource section. And
Virginia actually used to be a trade lawyer, so she's rather overqualified for putting together all our documents for this stuff. How do you register to publish on Amazon? So those sorts of questions, I'm just going to refer you back to the training. You set up a KDP account, follow that module. Quality checking books. So if they're in a foreign language, you could pay another person to proofread in that other language. You just need to use a bit of common sense, you know. If they're a professional writer, you can check and, you know, never end, or you can just get on with it and put it out there. The file formats for uploading to Amazon Kindle, we've definitely covered that in the training. How do you commission a ghostwriter? That's in the training. Audible books, good in male and female voices for self-help because men and women deal with trauma differently. Yeah, some books I've read, there's kind of alternating voices for alternating chapters. How will Brexit affect Kindle books for Europe? I have no idea, Emma. Just publish them in all the countries. It'll make no difference at all, I suspect. But whatever happens, it's completely beyond your control. And you also want to have your books published in every country going. When you receive the manuscript back, Stephanie, if it's not good enough, then you should send it back to the agency and say, this is not up to scratch, it's not publishable. Please have a better writer go through it, tidy it up and send it back to me. The annoying thing is we generally pay in advance for the agency jobs. The freelancers, it's more done on milestones, but all the agencies, I'm pretty sure, all paid up front. I haven't rewritten sections myself, but I think I will add to this creativity and original thinking one, whatever that ends up being called. I think I'll have quite a bit to do with that one. Chaudhry Imran's asking, how do you get books in lots of categories? So that's in the training as well. You have to email Amazon manually and give them the names of the categories that you want to be in. You can add another 7 from the 2 that you go into originally. We don't have any one-to-one coaching, Isabel, at this stage. The author profile, you can have as many different author profiles and nom de plumes as you like. I've got about 4 or 5, I think. So I've got like self-help Sophie and foodie Sophie and business Sophie. That's not me. There's another one. He's a man, actually, the business one. We've got Kate, we've got Stephanie, got quite a few. Yeah, we've had quite good fun with that. Yeah, photo of nom de plume. There's a website called thispersondoesnotexist.com or something where it's just completely fake faces. It's really weird that those people don't actually exist. Can't remember what it's called. Oh, Virginia's gone very yellow.
Yeah, this person does not exist. I'm going to send the link in here. This person does not exist.
So there you go. There's a photo for you.
I'll get that link.
William wants a copy of my book, Creativity and Imagination. Well, for an Amazon review, it's all yours. I'll send out some free copies. So when we're getting to the stage in a few weeks where we've got books ready to upload, what we'll do is figure out some cooperative yet legal way that we can boost each other's launches with reviews and downloads, because that will be a mega help. So some of the other communities I'm in, they kind of guarantee that you'll be a bestseller. I paid a lot of money to be in some sort of top end publishing groups. And I've done their writers' retreats and I've sort of seen what they teach, and some of what they do is really good. And basically, when you sign up to that program, it was, you know, tens of thousands of dollars for some of this stuff. Well, certainly 5 figures, maybe not tens of thousands, but over $10,000 I've spent with one particular group who guarantee that your book will be a bestseller. But all they do, and it's a bit dodgy and I don't like it, is they basically have a Facebook group, and when one person launches, they make sure it's in a very niche category. So they put it in a really, really tiny subcategory, and then they just get a flurry of reviews in one day from that Facebook group, all organizing to buy that book together. So Amazon would take a very dim view of that, and it's definitely kind of rigging the launch very deliberately. What I think we could do is have a community of readers, and people announce when their book's live and share a link. I don't think we want to be doing, and it might be during that free copy stage of your launch, because you can set the Kindle book to be free downloads for say 5 days after you go live. So maybe we can help you get a flurry of sales from within the community, but I just need to be really careful. I mean, if Amazon tracks a Facebook group, say that everybody's leaving each other reviews, Amazon's onto that, and they'll close us all down and make our lives hell and close our books down and close our Kindle accounts. And it's super tempting because it's a really easy game to fiddle. And I've seen so many Amazon product sellers over the years fiddle their reviews, and I've seen so many of them lose their entire businesses. You know, it's this short-term sugar rush of getting ranking and reviews. But it's not a cool thing to be doing. Amazon is watching everything. They're getting all that data from Facebook, who's in which footprint, from which IP address, leaving which reviews on what regular basis. It's just all being tracked, and one day it'll come crashing down. And Amazon's been really hard on people. They've done they've done whole class actions, taking cases against people running Amazon product review Facebook groups, like suing the socks off them. So we don't want to be doing that. And the other thing is, the strategy I teach is to go for these quite low competition books. So you're not going head to head with John Grisham on a legal thriller. You want to do some obscure subject, calligraphy for left-handers or something. You know, something that niche that you don't need 500 reviews to be the best book on page 1 on that subject. Yeah, never underestimate Amazon. They've probably got people planted in this group. Hello. Yeah, so we play it really clean. I do not break any Amazon rules. I would not sleep at night. I mean, especially when I teach this stuff, I just can't. And it's sometimes tempting because I see people overtake me with dodgy reviews all the time, but they aren't there for long. So play a long, clean game, not a short, dirty game and be gone tomorrow. Yeah, even people who I think are quite reputable do all sorts of sneaky stuff. We've had to have a, you know, I won't even go there, but yeah, long game. Amazon's here for a long time. Cool. Is there any other kind of, not housekeeping type stuff, but just general life advice, Virginia, that we've got for people?
Yes, I always have a lot of life advice. So maybe actually no. Maybe congratulations to a few of you, because I received some of your email and I know that you're progressing extremely well, that some of you have found a ghostwriter, some of you have already their book finished. So I just really want to say this is amazing. You're taking action. You are all action takers, really my kind of people. The other thing I want to say is maybe to focus on what matters and not on the small stuff. So it doesn't really matter what your pen name is. It doesn't really matter if you don't understand the exact details of why things are done the way how we're doing. Just take action, try. You're going to have roadblocks, and that's just normal, and you just have to think outside the box and ask questions if you need. Send us an email to the KPI at blueskyamazon.com, and I'll do my best to reply. So yeah, I mean, you can know all about it, but if you don't take action, it will just be all in your head, and that's not what we want, right? So yeah,
it can be a bit, most stuff can be patched up later. It doesn't need to be perfect. Better to do it and get a book out in month 1 than have a perfect book in month 12, by which time the market's completely changed and there's some other, you know, you almost can't be perfect if you're slow, because the world changes around you if you take too long to do stuff. Speed is your friend. Yeah, we had a good chat yesterday with a guy who's done a lot of publishing, who's going to come and help out potentially as a coach in this program too, just to give us some more people to spread the advice and attention for all of you.
This is a good one. Ashley is asking about the difference between Kindle versus Amazon Seller Central. So KDP is the platform where you need to upload all your books. Amazon Seller Central, that's the platform where you sell your physical products. So you cannot use Amazon Seller Central account to publish your books. You have to open a KDP account, which is free. Yeah, so Anna, you're not a native speaker. That's not a problem at all. Just get your ghostwriter to write the book, and needed proofread should not be an issue. And if you're not a native speaker in English, maybe think about publishing books in your native language. That will give you some advantage. Incognito mode. So I don't know if you're using a PC or Mac, but it should be, if you open an internet browser, if you click on Control Command and N, the letter N, that should open a new page with in the incognito mode. That's on my Mac, so I'm not too sure what you're using. Yeah, okay.
Brilliant. Also, when we get to teaching you titles and subtitles, I mean, there's training on that in the course, but when you are drafting yours, if you want some feedback, we'll do one of these weekly sessions, or we might do a bunch of them, critiquing and giving you feedback, and the rest of the group can give you feedback on the title and the subtitle that you're thinking of, because you need to kind of balance that keyword, because that's how Amazon's algorithm thinks and works, scanning keywords and relevancy. And then you need to appeal to the humans. So what are some good examples here? So the luck factor is the title, but the tagline, changing your luck, changing your life, the 4 essential principles. This book's selling really well. Starting a business, a quick start guide, the simplified beginner's guide to launching a successful small business, turning your vision into reality and achieving your entrepreneurial dream. So that's quite a mouthful. Amazon also scans the image of the front cover and the text you load in, and it has to match exactly. And we've got some problems with some titles that are too long at the moment on our books. So we've got about 30 in a spreadsheet that we've got, 50 things to do to 30 books. It's all quite a scramble. Which other ones are good? The one-page marketing plan, get new customers, make more money and stand out from the crowd. I mean, that's really snappy. This is a classic book of, doing well on Kindle. And even the blurb on the back takes a bit of thinking about.
KDP, not KPI. KPI is our course. KDP is the platform. So you don't need a seller account, an Amazon seller account, to upload and publish your books. I'm just going quickly. Rupa is asking about the research. Do we have to do the 250,000 average rank check? That's the average on the first page. If that you get that average from the KD Spy software, you can just see there's a average. Yes, Emma, if you're making up a writer name, do you then do you need to make up a profile about them? Yes, you do.
I'm a bit excited, but I can't really tell you about it. I'm a bit sad about this. But Virginia, I don't know if you've seen my inbox yet today, but the project that Roman's working on, we'll be able to tell everyone about it in the new year, but this will be a really cool new way of helping you research ebooks. And that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Did you have a look at it? Or maybe not yet, it's very early.
Not yet.
Earlier than me.
I'm going to check it out.
Virginia does these horrendously early starts to, I sort of plan these calls where we have to not have the UK staying up too late at night, my children out the house and off to school, so sort of 9 o'clock New Zealand time. And then poor Virginia and Christine are up 7 a.m. working most days of the week, all week, every week, all year. So next week, some very well-earned holidays coming up for those girls.
Stephanie is asking a timeline. Well, if you are a Duracell bunny like Sophie, you should get it done in 2 weeks. If you like normal people like me, I would say under 60 days.
Yeah, I think a month's doable. If you did a little bit every day, you'd have a book ready in a month, or it would be off with the writer within a month from the very start of day one. You could do all the training. Yeah, I've got lots of stuff I want to do. I need to kind of clone myself. So I'm actually looking to get a little bit of help in the team, just churning through. We've got somebody full-time, a girl in Pakistan who's coordinating all the narration of the 30 books that are in production at the moment. I think audiobooks are where it's at. Like, I'm going to put 80% of my effort into audiobooks in the year ahead and try and do not quite one a day, but certainly crank these things out. I mean, there's so much money to be made and it's so wide open and the competition is so low for the audiobook sales.
Yes.
So pick a niche, self-help, some hobbies, some business thing, and just churn them out and go for it. If you can do audiobooks.
Yeah, Peter, I don't think it is open to people who don't have. I'll go have another look on ACX website, but I don't think you can.
Yeah. Why don't you
can set it
also try just emailing? Try emailing them and just say your form doesn't quite work, but here's all my ID. Can I do it anyway? Like, the more of us that do that, they might just eventually do it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yes, so this is the last weekly call and we'll resume in the first week of January. Same for product uni, just saying.
Yeah, Claire, so you can only create an Audible book by linking it to a book that's already on KDP. So you can only access audiobooks if you've already got that book published on KDP. Good stuff.
Yes.
Well,
Great.
we'll finish there. Thank you very much, everyone, for your flying start on this exciting new opportunity. I think what we're doing is exactly the right thing to be doing right now. It feels spot on in terms of how Amazon's growing with its ebooks, how the state of the world, you know, this is a pandemic and recession-proof business model. I like the speed you can take things to market. I like the growth of the market, and the fact that there's a whole industry out there of writers and designers and people that can help us scale up and produce quality goods. So go for it, you know, don't hang about, really get stuck into this, and look forward to seeing your results. And we'll keep covering different topics in the new year, and, you know, give you lots of help along the way and update modules as things evolve, and we'll learn stuff as we go. And if you figure anything out, you know, come and share it, or if any of you want to do a guest session on one of these calls on something you've, you know, discovered, that would be wonderful.
I actually thought that's a great idea. Once they have some, you know, breakthrough, we can get them on the call, and we can get you guys come on the call and share your experience. That would be really inspirational for the other guys.
Yeah.
And just one last thing. Sorry, all the calls are recorded, and you can find those recording in KPI course and the KPI weekly call tab. So they're all filed in there.
Good stuff. I think that's everything. So have a lovely holiday, everyone. Thank you very much for all your hard work and supporting us, and we'll have a break, and then we'll come back fresh and ready to support you again in the new year. I feel like I'm crawling through this week a little bit. I'm going to collapse in a heap at the end of tomorrow, and then a few weeks off. And school holidays have started here, and the sun's finally out, so I feel like it's time for a rest. We're actually publishing a book on rest as well. And we're publishing a book on the self-care stuff. What else have we got books? And we've got all sorts. We've got some biographies going out on some very nasty people. They're not all feel-good ones. Yeah, we'll do all sorts of books. Cool. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. See you all in a couple of weeks. Brilliant. Bye-bye. See you all soon. Bye.
Bye, Virginie.
Bye. Happy Christmas. Bye.